now rocking with TDF everything. Spoiled Rotten.
Spoiler alert.
Welcome and welcome back, everybody.
Hey.
It's me, Daniel,
And this is Ben.
on Spoiled Rotten. That's how that goes. Hey, guys, we're back with people who probably should know they're too cool to be hanging out with us, but they're doing it anyway, so thank you very much. Adam and Nate from the Springfield Googleplex podcast, which I am a true fan of, and really happy to have you guys back. We've had you on individually, and we thought for the big team-up movie, we got to do a big team-up podcast.
Love it.
I don't know that I've ever been referred to as cool before, so thank you.
That's true. That's because you didn't hang out with me before, where I was like, everything you say and talk about, I'm like, yeah, that's what I want to be doing.
Well, there you go. Okay, fair enough. Thank you. I'll take it. And yeah, the team up. Nate, I don't know if you want to be Batman or Robin, but
you already made me Batman, as you may recall.
That's true. Yeah, I guess that's true.
Sorry.
Great. I get to be
I
Chris
got it
O'Donnell. I really got the short end of the stick here.
Hey, you know what? You gave a lot of people their sexual awakening. So.
That's true. I guess I got that going for me. So.
Yeah, and you got the first line of the movie, so there's that.
That's true.
Also true. Yeah.
I want a car. Hey, and I guess that means Ben and I put together our Alicia Silverstone. So there's that.
Yeah, or Alfred.
I was
Either
going
way.
to say one of you could be Alfred.
Yeah.
Or Wilfred.
Mm.
The ever elusive Wilfred. So yeah, if you can't tell, we're talking about Batman and Robin from 1997. This completes our 89 through 97 Batman rewatch. We did it. And
Yep.
we had to bring in the big guns for this. So I guess we'll just go around. Nate, you first. How did you feel coming back to this movie?
So I think I realized when I was coming back to this and kind of doing a little research, I'm pretty sure I saw this for my 9th birthday.
Oh,
Because
nice.
it came out on June 20th, 1997.
Yeah.
So it's just a couple days after my birthday, and it's like one of my earliest movie-going memories. Like, I'm sure I saw lots of like Disney stuff before that, but I very clearly remember being in the movie theater seeing this movie. So big nostalgia there. But actually coming back to revisit it, I was like, is this one of the best comedies of the 1990s?
Oh my God.
Hey, you know what? In defense of Nate, I was like, you know what? The jokes are there. I don't think everyone understands how to deliver them, but the jokes are
Right.
there.
Okay, fair enough.
I think, it comes back to what we were talking about on the Springfield Googleplex podcast about camp, right?
Mhm.
Adam West Batman. And this is really, I think, going for that same tone. And it hits it perfectly sometimes. I think Uma Thurman got the memo.
Yeah.
And I think Arnie got the memo.
I would say
Definitely
Arnie
got the
definitely
memo.
memo.
Yeah. But, and then other times it doesn't quite hit it, but that's kind of funny too.
Yeah.
So I had a really good time. That's the short version.
All right, Adam, how about you?
Well, we were sort of talking before we started recording, Daniel, and I sort of said I was really not looking forward to revisiting this film, a film that I had not seen since I saw it in the movie theaters when it came out, and my memory of it was that the fire alarm went off, and so we
Wow.
had to evacuate the theater, and I missed like the first. Well, it's not the first. It was like basically 5 minutes into the movie, the fire alarm went off. So I missed like a chunk of the movie.
Wow.
That sort of opening set piece.
It's like my worst
And-
nightmare.
Yeah, and we came back in with them because for whatever reason, they didn't stop the projector. And so when we got back into the theater, we came in and Batman was like windsurfing. And I think that was the moment when
You
I
missed
was
the
like,
big setup. That's
yeah, I missed the setup for why, but I don't think it really helped.
I know.
And yeah, that's when I think I knew I was in trouble. But my consensus this time around is that it's nowhere near as bad as I remembered, but it's also not very good. And Uma Thurman 100% saves it from being unwatchable. I think she's
Interesting.
phenomenal in this movie, and I
Mhm.
think everything else about it is an unmitigated disaster.
Oh, it sounds like
So-
I'm gonna have an unpopular opinion. All right, Ben, what about you?
I too remember this as one of my first movie going experiences, and I was just like, I remember distinctly the moment where the whole crowd, the whole audience was up in a roar, and that was because they were perving on Alicia Silverstone and the Batgirl changing outfit thing. I'm
Oh
like,
yeah.
okay, and then like rewatching it now, I'm like, okay, we got Clooney's butt or his butt double, and then Chris O'Donnell's butt. I'm like, okay, there's equality here to justify what's
Oh,
going
it's
on
equal
later.
opportunity for sure.
It's definitely
Yes.
equal opportunity, but I remembered this a lot more fondly than I did last night when I rewatched this. I'm like, we're just having fun. It's that kind of movie.
Yeah. Well, like everyone else, I don't think I feel this is a first movie memory because I definitely remember Batman Forever being one of the first movies I saw.
Mm.
But Batman and Robin, I think, is definitely the first one I remember walking out of and being like, "Is this like a movie I don't like?" I remember like as a
Yeah.
kid, I was like, "I saw it in the movie theater, it's great," and then just coming out of this one, being like, "Wait, is this a bad movie?"
Right.
Do those exist?
And I was like, "Wait, what's going on here, guys?" But more like Adam, it's not as bad as I built it up in my head.
Mhm.
I just
Mhm.
don't. Yeah, I just really did lose interest by that. I couldn't even have fun with it, really. But
I was just gonna say, like,
yeah.
it's more boring than I remember.
Mhm.
Like, I think that's my
that was
biggest
my thing.
complaint with it. Is
Yeah.
just like there are so many. The action set pieces are boring. The plot is overstuffed and like convoluted, and yeah, I just found myself like bored, and I was like, I shouldn't be bored by a Joel Schumacher Batman movie.
I think what saved this rewatch was I did watch this a lot on DVD and Blu-ray, and I can't find my Blu-rays now though. That's upsetting. But when I watched the audio commentary, it was a lot of Joel Schumacher being like, "Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. Like, like I'm an adult. I'm not gonna blame this on anyone else." And then he would proceed to blame other people. But like, it was just like he's just like, "Yeah, this isn't good." But I just remember Chris O'Donnell being like, "I still have never met Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm pretty sure my
Wow.
character fights his character. I've never met that guy. That guy was not around if he wasn't delivering a line. So
Right.
even if you see Mr. Freeze, if he's not delivering a line, it's probably not Arnold Schwarzenegger." And I was just like, oh, like I gotta rewatch. Like this rewatch, I was so like keyed into like, is that true? It seems like he must be on screen more than that. But I think to the movie's credit, I couldn't really tell if what was
Right.
true or not
Mhm.
about that statement.
He's wearing a lot of makeup and a lot of
Yeah.
costume, so like I think they can get away with a lot. But yeah, it's doing a lot of work.
Yes. But yeah, other than that, I agree with everyone who said that there's certain people who got the memo and certain people who didn't.
Yeah,
I
it's the
think-
protagonists who didn't get the memo.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Nobody. Other than does he pronounce it Michael Goff or Michael Gow or like
I
the
think
guy who
it's
plays
Goff.
Goff?
I think it
the
is
guy who
Goff,
plays
yeah.
Alfred. He's locked in because he doesn't have to be like slapstick funny. He can be
Right.
wry, but he's mostly the heart of the movie. So he's good. But I think even as a kid, I was like, I fucking hate what George Clooney did. I'm not a fan, and it didn't work for me this time either. You just keep smiling and shaking your head at every line read and missing the actual comedy of what you're supposed to be saying.
I because that was my memory was like, oh, Clooney's terrible in this, and like Clooney famously like there's these stories of if you go up to George Clooney and you say I saw Batman and Robin, he like would
Right.
pay you back your
Yeah.
ticket price because he felt so bad. But I was like, he's not as bad as I think everybody makes him out to be. Like he's not
He's
great,
not
and I don't
aggressively bad, but he's just
no, and I don't think he understands the character, but like he's still George Clooney. Like he's still exuding his George
If you
Clooney
like George
enough for me
Clooney,
to be
you're not
like,
going to be mad at it. But
Yeah,
as
that-
a
and
kid,
I-
I wasn't like, oh, thank goodness he's
Well,
at least he's
fair,
giving
yeah.
the George Clooney charm.
And I
like
think I think
no,
that
I was
the-
just gonna say I'm such a George Clooney fan that I think that's part of it. As I was just like,
Yeah.
well, it's cool to see young Clooney. Like he's handsome, he is
Yeah.
charming. Like Chris O'Donnell feels way more wooden and out of his league in this movie than
Yeah,
Clooney
it's-
does, in my opinion.
He's
But-
a bummer in Forever, and he's a bummer in this too.
Yeah.
it's not great.
I actually think that they're not very well written, right? Like
Oh,
No,
I mean, it's like, I mean, that's not I don't think that anyone's surprised to say that this movie's not well written sometimes, but like I kind of am okay with the corny dialogue of the villains in this, right?
Mhm.
Yes.
It's big, it's punny, it's like whatever, but I don't think they know what to do with the comedy of Batman and Robin. And I think that's part of the problem with this movie is like when you're watching, the old Adam West show, it's like, Batman has a shtick and Robin has a shtick, and they're both doing that shtick, and there isn't really a shtick for them in this. They're kind of playing. They're written to play it straight, and then that's what the actors do.
And the whole like, you're just mad because she loves me and not you. I was like,
Oh God.
I can't take this seriously. What is happening here?
I remember as a kid being confused by that too, because like growing up watching the animated series and sort of having like a vague understanding of the comic books, like Robin famously was like romantically involved with Batgirl. So I was like,
Yeah.
when are they going to start doing that? Like that's what I assumed prior to seeing the movie. I was like, oh, they're introducing Batgirl. Batgirl and Robin are going to have like this romantic chemistry. And no, instead it's just like him and Clooney fighting over Poison Ivy, which like I understand why, because
Well, they have some stuff with Batgirl too, but it's like I feel like the arc is that he starts out with the hots for her and then learns to respect her as a person.
Yeah.
maybe. Yeah.
I think that's what they're trying to do.
He's
I
like,
mean,
wait a minute, you're
I don't know if they
capable?
really pull it
Not
off,
into
but-
this. I'm not
Right.
into this.
And I have to say, like, if anyone gets the short end of the stick in this movie, it's Alicia Silverstone. Because, like, that character
yeah.
is so underwritten. The plot
totally.
feels so unnecessary. Like, she's just clearly there so that they could add Batgirl and, like, sell movie tickets to girls. But, like, it feels like the ultimate, like, capitalist, like, we're shoehorning in characters to make more toys. Like,
And
and it sucks
having
because
her
it
be
could have
like-
been awesome.
Having her be like using your feminine wiles to get with you. I'm like,
Oh.
I don't feel like that was. Yes, Poison Ivy is like, hey, if you come at me, I'll kiss you and kill you. But her thing was, I'm trying to save the planet. I'm going to get rid of anyone who stops that. So that did feel like a, hey, let's check this off. People will love when a female character says this. But I think this time I was also hung up on, so does Bruce know she's going to be Batgirl or not? Because he keeps saying things like, yeah, just let her stay. Like, obviously, it's going to be fine. And
Right.
Alfred keeps going, we get pretty busy here. He's like, oh, it'll be fine.
So-
and then
Yeah.
ends the movie with, no, you got to go back to school. And I'm like, what? It seemed like your whole plan was to have her be a part of this.
But it's funny to me because I'm like, there's actually a line there. I'm like, wait, I can't remember. I couldn't remember this when I was a kid. But she goes like, Bruce, it's me. It's,
Yeah.
it's,
Oh, yeah.
it's Barbara. And I'm like, well, the concept
Well, I
of
think
secret
that's the
identity is
writing
lost on
thing
her.
that
Yeah.
the script did her no favors, because
Yep.
of the heroes, I see how her performance would work if they gave her material to work with, but like they didn't give her anything, so you're kind of
Nothing.
like, oh, that's too bad. This was all for naught.
Yeah.
And I felt like there's a moment where I keep calling her Chris O'Donnell, where Robin says something where I'm like, this is the movie right here. And it's like, when I was in the circus, we had to trust each other. I'm like, yeah, these are fair points, and this makes sense.
Yes.
And I'm meeting the movie more than halfway. His frustration of like, why do you even have me here if we're not going to work like we did in the or I did in the circus, to actually trust each
Yeah.
other to be where we need to be when we need to be there.
Mhm.
And then they're like, nah, he's just reckless. And I'm like, what? No, he had a point, and the movie is just curving away from that to make Batman be like, no, I can't trust you anymore.
There's kind of just too much crap going on in this movie.
Yeah.
And that's part of it, is just like there's that, but then like you have to have this whole subplot with Alfred and Batgirl that then intertwine close to the end, and it just like adds this whole other element. And then she's, like right when you should be having like this interesting resolution with Batman and Robin, around this whole theme that they've been building up throughout the whole thing, instead you have her showing up, and then like it adds this whole other dynamic. And then you also have Poison Ivy. So it's like the whole trust argument gets like wrapped up in the argument over Poison Ivy.
Yeah, where they're on drugs, so it's not really them. Although
Right.
it does make it seem like Robin just is actually in love with Poison Ivy. The drugs don't do much.
But that's my biggest complaint with this movie, Nate, is that like, again, I don't necessarily I think it's trying to do way too much. It's overly long. And
Mhm.
if you were to, I understand that like because Batman Returns introduces two villains, from that point on they're like we got to keep doing the two villain thing. But like
Yeah,
the Mr. Freeze subplot is pretty lame and like kind of seems to only exist to quasi get the McGregor syndrome and tie it back to the Alfred. But I'm like, if this was if Poison Ivy was the only villain in this movie, I think this
Yeah.
movie would be 10 times better if
I
that
agree.
had been the only plot line. But then like because the Mr. Freeze thing feels like undercooked. The
Yes.
Barbara and Alfred stuff is super undercooked and like not satisfying.
But
Not a
because
satisfying
it's so
payoff at
obvious that
all.
it's like this is just here so she's Black Girl. It doesn't
Right,
feel like
yeah.
you organically are like, oh, she could be back. You're like, oh, he's already looking for a replacement, and now
Right.
here's this person.
And the
who
whole
will-
Wilfred, like, you
Yeah.
know,
and why is and
red
why is she
herring
related,
thing.
yeah, and why is she related to Alfred? Like
Yeah, why is she not Barbara
canonically, she's
Gordon?
always been Barbara Gordon, and that like
Yeah.
that could have been interesting. I know that like the relationship with Commissioner Gordon in these
Yeah.
movies is not as developed, but still like
Well, this movie certainly is not interested in having
the
them-
relationship with
they,
Alfred
They
isn't that
stand
developed.
next to each other, but don't ever really.
I know.
interact.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
It's just it's like that was my number one takeaway. I was like, if they had gone back and just picked one of these two villains and flushed out either one of their plots, and to me, the Poison Ivy plot is the one that feels already the most flushed out and kind of the
It's
most
got
interesting.
forward motion. Like you know what she
Mhm.
wants to do. It's not.
Yeah.
It isn't like it is connected to Bruce Wayne, so that's why they're intertwined. But it's not like, oh, I gotta get revenge. It's just like I'm going to help the planet.
Yeah.
Whereas Mr. Freeze, you're like, he's just getting diamonds for his suit. He doesn't really have
Well,
anything
he's
else.
trying
I
to-
mean, yes, he wants to help his wife, but
Right.
in terms of bad guy stuff, you're like,
Well, isn't the
He's-
plot that he is scheming about, isn't it just the plot from Diamonds Are Forever, the James Bond movie?
No, I don't
Isn't it?
believe
Isn't it?
there's a
That
super
doesn't-
there's
he
no
needs-
super villain in Diamonds and Forever who's trying to save their wife with diamonds.
No. Whoa,
I just
whoa,
feel like
but
that's an
but he is trying to
afterthought.
build
His whole
a
thing is,
super
I just need the
laser.
suit to work.
Yes, there
He's
is
trying
yes,
to build a super laser
yes,
that's powered by
yes,
diamonds.
Yes. But see, that's my complaint with the Mr. Freeze subplot is that like his motivations for wanting to become a supervillain, like he wants to help his wife, and so his only way to do that is to hold the city hostage to get money, to get more money for research. To like,
For
But
billions.
couldn't he just
by
sell the
way.
diamonds?
He needs billions.
yeah, like exactly. Like to me, it's like there's no reason for him to be angry with like he's not getting revenge, which would motivate his
Yeah, like
his
he's not.
supervillain arc.
I for sure remember, obviously incorrectly, remembered that they're like, oh, like if you look at the video of when he turns into Mr. Freeze, you can see his. I'm now remembering that was just Heart of Ice from the animated series. But like,
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes.
it's like if he was trying to get revenge on the people who turned him into Mr. Freeze, and that's why he's got the suit and everything, and now he's just
Yeah.
gotta feed that. But it's just like, yeah, you need money to save your wife. I don't know what the suit's for. Like the suit seems irrelevant.
Stop
but it's
spending
taking
money-
up so much time.
Stop spending money on all of your frozen dinners, and actually, those are just a hidden portal to your dead wife. Like it's just.
I love that joke though.
I know
that
it's a great. It's a
his
great
dead wife is
gag.
hidden behind the frozen dinners.
It's a great gag, but it's just like again, and like maybe we're over analyzing it because we have to. We talk about this a lot on our show of like putting ourselves in the context of when the film came out. So it's like
Yeah.
in this world, Batman Begins and like the gritty, grounded superhero genre doesn't really exist. So maybe people are a little bit more forgiving of these very comic booky plot lines. But
Mhm.
even when you go back and watch something like Batman '89, which we did on our show this year, you know, that's still like all the motivation makes sense. And like
Mhm.
the Joker being a supervillain makes sense because he was
Mhm.
already kind of a bad guy, and this just made him extra crazy. But like, yeah, I don't know. I feel like the Freeze subplot is just so badly developed, and they were just kind of hoping that no one would pay attention, and it's Arnold, and therefore he can carry it. But like,
Top billing, yeah.
no kidding.
And I'm looking at this from the perspective of like the point's already been made that it was for to sell toys and all that kind of stuff. But like the stuff with Gordon, to me, I'm like, was this to sell the video game as well? Because that whole like thing when he's like on his way, it's like, here's the mission that you have to go do, Batman. Go ahead and do it. I'm like, that seems like Super Nintendo video game talk right
Yeah.
there. And I'm like, okay, if that's what they were going for too, that makes sense. Pure capitalism all over this thing. But you're absolutely right. There's no point for Mr. Freeze to do anything other than deliver great one-liners. Because that's all he does throughout the whole movie. And
Well,
I'm like,
Well, I don't know if he
I'm
delivers
okay with
them. They're there for him to read. I don't know if
Yes.
he delivers on all
They
of them.
exist.
Yeah.
No, it's funny. The movie I kept thinking about while I was watching this, and this is a weird comparison to make, but even in terms of like some of the production design and just like the puns and it kept giving me big like Austin Powers vibes.
yeah.
But like
Sure.
Austin Powers is a parody and is meant
like-
to be funny, and this is coming across as like, no, this is sincere, but it's all of the things that Austin Powers is poking fun at. This
Mhm.
movie has, but sincerely.
I don't know if it is trying to be sincere. I think that, again, I think some people got the memo and some people didn't, right? Because it's like, I don't think Uma Thurman and Arnold Schwarzenegger are like, we're being sincere, you know. I think
I
like
think they're being
when Arnold
sincere
Schwarzenegger
about the TV show references. I think they're like, I know how the TV show villains play.
right,
I'm gonna do that.
right,
I don't think it's like Austin Powers where they're like, remember how everyone thought this was cool and we're gonna make a joke about it, even out of love, but still make a joke. This was
Yeah.
like, we're trying to hit what the TV show was doing.
right. Where it's like, you know, for kids, like kids won't know and they'll think they'll take it seriously and enjoy it. But then like adults might kind of get the camp of it. But I
Mhm.
just don't think it always lands the camp. That's sort of my
Yeah.
feeling about it, is that it's like there's too much in it that is more sort of traditional and sincere.
Mhm.
And if it actually leaned even more into the camp, it might actually be more successful. You know?
That's my problem with the George Clooney of it all.
Yeah.
Is that
I
everything
agree.
there is there set up for him to be Adam West funny, which it
Right.
like seems straight laced,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
is funny.
Yeah.
Whereas George Clooney's just being charming George Clooney instead of really doing the humor of what he's supposed to be saying.
Mhm.
But then I guess my question is, whose fault is that? Like, is that on Joel Schumacher? Like, because as the I heard
Yes.
the
mean, I
story
always
of
blame
how
the director
he
for stuff like that.
like apparently before, you know, every take he'd be like, okay, remember, we're making a cartoon, and the
Mhm.
actors were saying, well, like, what does that mean? Like, I guess if he wanted it to be super campy and hyper stylized and all that, like, then he should have been better at giving that direction, or at the very least asking for another take and be like, can you do that? And again, to
Yeah.
your point, like, some of the actors are clearly understanding it. Like, I think Uma Thurman like knows the world she's playing in and is playing up that camp, and
Mhm.
you know, right down to when she's, you know, in disguise as not Poison Ivy, and she's like the crazy
Yeah.
the doctor and all that. Like, she's playing it in that way that totally tracks with
It's-
what it should
like-
be.
It's like Julie Newmar, basically,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Like she's
It's
doing
totally,
Catwoman.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think she's doing great. Arnie is giving like Rita Repulsa vibes.
Yes.
Yes.
Of like
That's
the
a good
bulging
call.
eyes and the maniacal laughing and stuff. Yeah, I love it. But but yeah, and then I think it's partly Joel Schumacher's fault for sure. I think that the script doesn't really give them what they need to make it work. You
Right.
know, like
Hmm.
like I said, it doesn't have a take on like what is Batman's deal, right? He's just a kind of generic hero in this, and
Well,
and you know,
but
Batman and
he's he's a commitment phobe in this, which I
Mhm.
can't ever find this interview, but I feel like I was convinced there was a interview where George Clooney was like, "Oh, I played him gay," and
Yeah.
was like, "No, I'm being serious. I played him gay," and so like that whole thing with Julie Madison where she's like, "Why won't you commit to me?" and he's like, my life isn't really what you think it is," and I'm like, "See, I see him playing something there. I don't think he's trying to play a gay, but like it is like he's doing
Yeah.
something there, but it doesn't really connect. I mean, I guess it connects to how he can't commit to Dick Grayson as a partner, but it is just like not really a thing the movie is interested in resolving so much
Right.
as just being like, it's the end of the movie, they're fine, don't worry about
Well,
it.
it's the. I mean, I think it's part of the problem is the ever changing casting in these movies.
Yes.
Like,
Mhm.
is this supposed to be a direct sequel to Batman Forever and Batman and Robin and Batman? Like, is this the same? It's like the James Bond canon. Like,
I think
is this
it
the same
and
Batman?
This movie,
It is technically.
this has like the
Mhm.
Riddler and Two Faces
Right.
things, and so I
So then
at
the
least for
question
Joel
is,
Schumacher's purposes, yeah,
Right.
they're trying to be.
so then the question is, who's this new woman you've introduced us to that he's apparently got to like again? If it would have been interesting if maybe they brought back like Nicole Kidman, or like at least the character Nicole Kidman
Yes.
played, if it's played by
Right.
another actress, so that then we understand like, oh yeah, this is someone he has had a relationship for a long time. But no, it's just Elle Macpherson as new generic woman.
But
Mhm.
Julie Madison is a comic accurate girlfriend for him, and I
Okay.
think that's part of the sincerity I think they were going for, which is like, let's pull. I mean, I don't know why they fucked up Barbara Gordon, but Julie Madison as a love interest is straight from the comics, and if I'm them, I think they're assuming we made up Dr. Chase Meridian.
Yeah.
What
Right.
if we gave him a comic accurate girlfriend? Maybe that'll smooth over some of this stuff. But it's Elle Macpherson playing her, who I don't have anything against, but also is not like a strong actress because that's not her main thing.
I think she's a studio note. That's my theory.
Yes.
Is
Mhm.
that she's there because they needed to make Batman look not gay.
Yes,
Right.
I would agree with that because I
And-
feel like a
and-
lot of decisions are made like that across Batman media.
Yes, there's a lot of like phobia of, you know, the relationship between Batman and Robin being misconstrued
Mhm.
or whatever.
Especially
and
since they're so close in age in this. I mean, they're not actually, but like, he's clearly not a kid in this.
No.
yeah,
grown
right,
man.
exactly.
And it's like, here's your outfit. It's got nipples. It just there's
Yeah.
there's a lot of homophobic
Homoerotic.
homoerotic stuff. Yes, thank
Yeah,
you. That's the word.
Right.
I think this was another thing from the commentary that I feel like is a thing Zack Snyder ran with as well. Is he was like, I was making them look like Greek architecture, like when they do their
Mhm,
gods
mhm.
and everything.
Sure.
And so, I'm not saying that means it's not homoerotic for people. I'm just saying like I think it's still funny, but it is like it is a sincere choice being made there, not
Mhm.
like it's, and they're in Batman Forever as well, but same director. So it's like
Yeah.
these are these sincere choices being made that aren't supposed to be funny that turned out to be funny for people.
Right.
Well, I mean, it's again, it comes down to I'm fine with them being like chiseled Greek
Yeah.
gods, but it's the opening montage of this movie is literally like close-up crash zooms on butts and crotches, which
Right,
is
but
like,
you don't think that's supposed to be funny? I think it's definitely supposed to be funny.
I don't
I think
know.
this time around maybe it is because the
Maybe,
first
but they're redoing what they did in Forever, right? Like
Mhm.
that's the whole thing, and I don't know if it was meant to be funny that time around because like allegedly that movie was supposed to be scary and dark, and the studio made him recut it. Although he
Mhm.
gives the same excuse for this movie as well, which like allegedly there's a alternate cut of this movie that's very dark and serious.
Yeah,
which
I
I
didn't
can't.
get that. I was like,
cannot
There's no
fathom
way. There's no
exactly.
way.
That's such bullshit.
No
and
way.
like I don't
know why you would ever claim that. There's just absolutely no way. I mean,
No.
unless
Yeah.
there's like a completely alternate script that was shot. It's literally nothing but puns and quips. The whole
Yes.
thing is
Yeah.
puns and quips.
Yeah.
Like literally Arnold Schwarzenegger is like dying and he says, "Take two
Yeah.
and see me in the morning." It's
Yeah.
like, come on, you know? I mean, like that's even in that moment, they don't give him a single line that's like meant to be taken seriously. You
even
know?
when he's like getting mad at Vivica Fox for coming on to him, it's still like puns and stuff that he's saying.
Right.
Where I'm like, come on, you can't be. And then when he's trying to watch his wedding video and have an emotional moment, then he has his "I hate when people talk during the movie" clip. I'm like, so
Yeah.
just
Right.
never serious. That this
Yep.
guy doesn't have anything.
Yeah, it's a mess. It's a mess of a movie. I mean, it looks cool. I will say, I watched the 4K version on iTunes because
Nice.
I bought the Batman box set a few months ago,
Mhm.
and it looks. I was gonna say it looks really good, but it simultaneously looks really, really good and really, really cheap. Like it's this funny thing of
Mm.
anytime there's ice or diamonds on screen, you can tell that they're like made of plastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do like sort of the lighting design and it's obviously a very different look from the from the Burton films and
Mhm.
obviously where they subsequently go in the reboots and everything.
Mhm.
But like there is visual interest going on. I think the Batmobile looks really cool. And even the suits, like as much as the nipple thing is funny, like I kind of like the suits do look cool.
Mhm.
So it's
Yeah.
a cool looking movie, but it's just like again, it's to what purpose?
I mean, to me, it's like it feels a lot like an amped up version again of the Adam West stuff, right?
Mm.
It's kind of cheap and silly, and like again, it has the like themed goons and all that kind of stuff, and like a bat suit that has skates built in, like it is
Even
really
though they didn't
silly.
leave the house knowing they were going to be fighting someone.
No,
with this.
no, of course
No,
not.
they're always there.
You never know when you're gonna
yeah,
end up on
They're
ice.
fair enough.
You
Fair
never
enough.
know. but yeah, I think it's like, what if they actually had a big budget for those TV shows, right? And like, what would you do that still feels in the same tone as the Adam West Batman, but like,
Mhm.
you know, you have no like limits on your budget, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I liked the neon guys that Bane has to fight, but then I realized, they're not gonna actually fight. It was
Right.
It was like, I was like, wait, did I miss something? I thought he fought these guys, but it's just a chain yank, and then they're on to the next thing. But
Yep.
the look of them was really cool.
Yeah,
but I
but
feel like they
that's
also did that in Batman Forever.
That's
Yes.
another one of my like biggest complaints with this movie is like every action set piece is so bad. Like there's not one, like the opening scene is like kind of cool, but then it's also like they're
It goes
playing
on for too
hockey
long.
at one point, and you're
I
just like,
I
what is-
like that sequence a lot. I think
But,
that
like,
sequence is fun.
it's maybe the most fun, but it's not like there's there's never any stakes in any of these fights.
That's
they
true.
they kind of just like they're weirdly edited, they're weirdly choreographed, like
I
nothing
agree.
about them feels exciting, and again,
But they do surf at the end of that sequence.
they
They
just
air
Yeah.
surf,
you're right.
so
Yeah.
that's pretty.
Well, and
exciting.
Batman
And
descends
now
on
you
a
know why.
dinosaur by like skateboarding.
Like Fred Flintstone.
Yeah, like, it's. But and again, I recently rewatched Batman Begins, so like that was fresh in my mind, and so like maybe I'm making an unfair comparison, but like all of those movies, and people are somewhat critical even of Nolan's ability to direct action
I'm
sequences.
one of those people.
But like they at least feel like they have a purpose and there's stakes and there's like an escalation of violence and but like these didn't, like at no point did they feel threatening. You know, I guess maybe the ice gun is like somewhat.
But they just show Batman nonchalantly like fixing it every time.
Yeah.
I've never, like I
Yeah.
wasn't like, oh no, Robin got, because again in the cartoon it's like, oh no, Robin's out of commission now. Like he basically has the flu
Mhm.
after he goes through the like ice gun. Whereas
Right.
this
he
is
just
just
pops
like,
him in some water.
yeah, he just drops him in some water and
Heats it up
he's
with a
just back to
laser.
being annoying and like, I'm fine. Look at me, I'm right here. I'm like, oh my god.
Did we get him?
That
Did
shot
we
of
get him?
Robin thawing underwater is absolutely hysterical. They must
It
have made
is.
like a mannequin of him
Yeah,
or
because
something.
he's so light. Like it just does not feel
I'm
like
just
a
gonna
real
pick
thing.
him
Yeah.
and put him in the water.
But
And I'm
see,
like,
again,
ridiculous.
Austin Powers vibes, because the whole time I
Yes.
was thinking warm liquid goo phase. Like I just there were all these moments where I was like, and because Austin Powers came out the same year, which is crazy. But
Yeah.
like,
Oh wow. Okay.
just it's. I know that they're two very different movies, but if you want to talk a movie about a movie that's sort of like doing the camp thing and like leaning
Mhm.
into it, and like Austin Powers succeeds in all the ways that Batman and Robin fails, in my opinion. And I get that they're two very different kind of movies, but they're still in many ways like trying to do some of the same things.
Yeah.
I do think that why this fails is it's obvious the influence the James Bond stuff and British spies have had on Mike Myers and how that he's lovingly
Yeah.
ribbing these things versus
Yeah, for sure.
not having a director being like, and remember, we're making a cartoon here. Like, even if people writing it were like, this reference to this is going to be sick. But then when you get to the director on set just being like, I mean, what the fuck do we care? Let's just do this. Then, yeah, there's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
And the toyetic nature of this movie really
I wanted to
shows.
use that word first. Damn it.
I'm so sorry. I couldn't resist. I mean, I will say I own. So I still have all of my Batman action figures from when I was a kid.
nice.
Thinking one day that
Amazing.
my son will play with them.
Oh, smart.
And I don't know if he will, but next time we go to my parents' house, I am gonna like get them out and see. Because now that he's 3, maybe he'll be like kind of interested. But I remember, going to Toys R Us and like, what am I gonna get? And I got the Poison Ivy, and I think I got the Mr. Freeze. And I don't know that I ever got any of the Batman and Robins. I probably got a Batgirl because I didn't
I
have a
got a lot of
Batgirl at
Robins.
that point.
Mhm.
But like, yeah, just the fact that the suit changes 3 times, like, that was like, okay, well, we got to be able to sell,
Mhm.
multiple bat suit outfits, and like, and that's where like this movie really, like, that was a part of all the other movies, but like this one really feels like it's strictly existed to sell toys. And it's so funny because I remember watching they had like the world premiere event was on, like they broadcast it on TV, like in prime time. And I had a book that my dad got me about like the making of, and it was just like beauty shots of all the costumes and everything, and
Mhm.
like,
Mhm.
and I just remember how marketed this movie was,
Mhm.
and obviously then when it bombed at the box office, it kind of like backfired. But it really just feels like a movie that was designed to sell kids just junk, and like
Mhm.
that's a bummer because like it could have, like we said, like there are elements here that actually do kind of work and have potential, and if they had actually focused more on making a good movie and not just like making a movie that can sell shit, I think they could have actually made a pretty decent Batman movie.
Mhm.
I mean, the first 10 minutes of this movie are literally like a toy ad. I mean,
Yeah.
again, first line of the movie, right? Daniel, you said it, right?
Yep.
Robin says, you know, what does he say?
I
He
want
says,
a car.
I want a car.
Chicks-
Chicks dig the car.
Yeah.
right,
Dicks dig
right.
the
He's
car.
like, it's literally him talking about how great the car is.
Mhm.
And like the first shots are the suit, right? The suits. And
Yeah.
then the cars coming out of the Batcave. And then the,
But like
you know,
one
and
at
then
a time.
yeah.
You're like,
the
wait, we
motorcycle
did this
coming
beat
out.
already.
Right. It's like it's just all the stuff. That's like the very first 10 minutes of this movie is just showing you all the stuff with almost no story, no character happening at all.
I feel bad because that's the most engaged I am throughout watching the movie. It's like,
It's
yeah,
cool.
okay, cool. You bring that out. Yeah, all right, okay, we're gonna fight the ice guys, and then yeah, you get to the lair. You said it's like themed goons, but I'm like, but these guys seem sad to be here versus
They do seem very sad
The
to be-
Two-Face
very
goons,
cold.
the Joker goons, even the family of like the Red Triangle gang for Penguin. Is like this is like the first movie where they're like, no, these guys are miserable.
That's true.
Well,
Well,
yeah,
they're
'cause
being
they're-
like
they're
you know,
cold.
frozen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd just say like just make it that they were warm enough with their coats. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess.
Why do
so.
I have to watch them be miserable? I'm already like, why are you with this maniac?
Well,
That
on
is that is something that's never really explored, is the psychology of the villain's henchmen and why they follow these people. And you're right, like the Joker, I love how in Batman 89, like the Joker's goons all have like branded leather jackets.
And they're
Um,
like, they're down for
they're
the
into
cause.
it,
They're like,
yeah.
like
Clown.
let's do it. Let's do crimes.
But these guys, yeah, they're just so miserable. They're so cold. They don't want to upset them because they might get frozen in ice
Mhm.
and have to. I mean, granted, they're also having to hear all of his bad ice puns all the time.
well, and he's making them sing along to Christmas specials.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I did like
yeah,
that.
that
song.
scene was weird.
I love that. That's great.
Yeah, I think that we haven't really talked about Bane, and it's such an interesting.
yeah.
Mm.
I found out that the guy Jeep Swenson like died that like months after the movie
Yeah.
came out, which is
Ooh.
really upsetting. But like,
Yeah.
it's I can't even be like, oh, what a weird deployment of Bane, because I don't think he was, in terms of mass audiences, that popular. So I guess you could just be like, okay, sure, that's
Mhm.
Bane. But then you start reading the comics, and you're like, oh, why did they why did they do this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They could have done like Solomon Grundy or something.
Right. Right. Like an actual character that just speaks in like,
Yeah.
you know, single words and grunts and so forth. I mean,
Right.
one of my favorite moments is him just setting up all the bombs in the observatory and going, bomb,
Yeah.
bomb, bomb.
he's the original Groot.
Yes.
Nice. Nice. I like it.
But you're right though, Daniel. Like it is funny because traditionally that character is like, I mean, he famously breaks Batman's back, which is like
Right.
obviously Chris
But
Nolan
like
runs with,
outsmarts
but-
him too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
He's like,
he's-
I'm breaking your back after I made you run around all day, and now you're tired.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas here he's just like a big heavy galoot, which I
Yeah.
feel like there must have been other because yeah, I guess he must have been popular enough that people would be excited by the presence of Bane, but
Yeah,
not
the
so
look of it must be enough for people to be like,
Yeah.
okay,
It's just
cool.
visual.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean-
Bane was in the animated series, right? So it's
Mhm.
like people knew of him, but he wasn't like, I guess, silver screen big in that sense. But that's why I love the Uma Thurman line there. It's like every every Poison Ivy action figure comes with their like thing. I'm like, they're saying it in the movie. All right, yeah, that's
It's
some
but it's
great
weird, like it's the
superliminal
weirdest sex
advertisement.
joke of the movie. I'm like, what? They didn't like. There's no other way to take what she's saying. Like she's talking about being fertile, and though that's why all of her action figures come with. I'm like, this is like everything else was kind of like sprinkled it. This was just no. We're doing a sex joke.
Well,
what
I
do you
mean, she
think,
she
guys?
full on says, what is it?
I'll
Robin's
help you
like,
hold your rocks.
yeah, well, and also Robin's like, show me a sign, and she says, how about slippery when wet?
Oh yeah,
I mean,
That's a good
Yes.
one.
that's not subtle at all.
Yeah.
yeah. that's
She's
a
so
one.
good in this movie, guys.
is.
Like, oh
She
my
is
god,
so
she's so
sexual.
good.
I think whatever the filming schedule is, there's moments where I'm like, Uma could do better than this. But overall, yes, she's good. It's just it felt like an inconsistent. There seems like some moments like when she first becomes Poison Ivy and she's like knocking things over. There seems like a lack of commitment to it.
Sure.
And just not many line reads, but there are just certain line reads where I'm like, I know she's better than this because she's doing it in this movie,
Yeah,
regardless
yeah.
of what I know from other movies from her.
Yeah.
And maybe that's just a function of having a director that's not really looking to help everyone out and just
Well,
needs to get the movie done.
And I will say it also emphasizes how underserved Alicia Silverstone is in this movie.
Oh,
That
yeah.
Uma is like, she gets so much screen time and so many great moments and so many great lines. And in fairness, like the Batman series, even up to this point, like has been pretty decent with its female characters. I mean, maybe
Yeah.
a little less Kim Basinger, but like obviously Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman is like one of the best superhero villains, full stop, let alone female superhero villains.
Agreed.
So you know that they like that's clearly the bar that Uma is like, okay, well, Michelle Pfeiffer set the bar very high. I have to at least get up to that level, if not clear it. And I think she's managing really, really well. But then you get to like Barbara, and she's just like sitting at the computer and typing in passwords, and you're like,
And then the
England. Like, it's just so
And I did-
bad.
It's really
I
rough.
understand why they were like, we need to show her being like reckless, so let's do this motorcycle thing. But I was just like, why like you
Yeah.
can cut this out and it does not like you wouldn't lose a thing from cutting this out because she doesn't even win the race. It's just there so that Robin saves her, so it doesn't make her look better.
Yeah, and that's my problem with her in general is like, I guess at the end of the day, she saves the day because she figures out the computer and like,
she does not
but
let
she
us
re-
forget it.
like
Yep.
you
Nope.
don't. This character serves no purpose for literally 90% of this movie, and then she just basically comes in for the final action set piece to, again, I guess, sell more toys, and then that's it. Like it feels like you could, if you cut that subplot, and then you could get rid of the whole subplot with Alfred that essentially goes nowhere because he's saved
Right.
by the end. And then you go, well, okay, now that we've got rid of that, we can probably get rid of most of the Mr. Freeze stuff. And that's why I say, like, at the end of the day, if this had just been Batman and Robin versus Poison Ivy, and you could still keep the, like, they're both fighting over her kind of element, like, that would all work. It's just, and you could have, like, a nice, tight 90, 100-minute movie.
And
It
you
would
wanna
have been
keep
so
Bane?
much better.
Yeah.
You could keep,
But-
yeah, you could keep Bane if you want to have Bane. Like, you don't necessarily need him, but like, sure, give him, like, he can be the heavy to offset the fact that, you know,
Now, can I counter with if you get rid of Mr. Freeze, how are we going to get Jesse the Body Ventura in the movie?
Yep.
there is
true.
that. There
But-
is that.
There's also the other thing, and I like that the fact that I would think it was Nate. You said this earlier. The context of the timing of when this came out, 97, right? Spice Girls, 94 to 2001, like booming. They're like, hey, we got to get some of that girl power in here. Alicia Silverstone, let's do, and that's exactly how it feels. It's just like, yep. People that like
Yeah.
Spice Girls are really gonna love Batman and Robin now.
I don't think that's what they thought.
Well, it certainly
They were
felt
trying
like
to
they
get
were
some of
going
that,
for-
though.
I
I
think
yeah, they were
hope
going for a
that
demographic.
girls
Yeah.
will like it. I think Spice Girls is too solid of a thing for them to be like this. If anything, that's counter programming. I don't think they're thinking we're gonna get the Spice Girls. I think they're just gonna think
So
we're gonna
here's-
get girls.
Here's the funny thing about that too. I just found out the other day through this trivia game on Netflix that Spice Girls only had one number one hit in North America. The entire. I'm like, I thought they had
surprised by
more.
that.
Exactly, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Oh,
Well, I guess
they
that's
only had like two.
yeah, well, they said only one, and it's Wannabe, and I'm like, oh,
Huh.
that kind of
But they-
explains why they were only after
Well,
till
they didn't
2001.
People bought their
music.
albums, I think, because it's
Yeah.
like people knew the whole back catalog. That,
Yeah.
or
For,
all,
for context though, guys, Spice World came out the same year. Like the movie.
No,
So-
There you go.
Which is my sister's first experience of, is this movie bad? I remember she cried when the movie ended and was like, where are all the good parts? She
Oh,
was
no,
like,
that
what?
movie-
She was like, what? Where
Disagree.
did all
That
the
movie
good parts-
fucking owns
But
bones.
speaking
It's
of
so
camp-
good. Yeah, it's
I
so
don't think
campy.
she was ready for the
No,
camp of that
you
movie.
can't-
That
right.
You
movie's
can't take that
clearly
movie
going for something.
seriously. That's I've had 2 glasses of red wine and I've put it on and I'm having a blast at how bad it is. And Roger Moore shows up. Like it's, oh man, the cameos in that movie. I wish we had watched Spice World. Can I come back and when you guys do Spice World? That
I
movie
mean,
is
if you
great.
want to,
I'm down. I have never watched Spice World. I'm like, all right, let's do
Oh
it.
Ben, you're in
Great.
for
It's
you're in
fun.
for a treat. It's
Yeah.
it's one of my wife's favorite movies, and we've watched it many times.
I
and
feel like
really
that's a
love it.
fun
It's-
movie.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
it's very stupid, but like
Yeah.
it knows it's stupid, and that's
Yeah.
I think that's ultimately that's kind of my issue with this is that like it wants to have its cake and eat it too. It wants to be campy, but it also wants to be a serious superhero movie, and it wants to sell toys. But it also wants, like, again, Joel Schumacher's telling you there was a dark and gritty alternate cut of this movie. Like, it just.
But it's
it
also a
doesn't-
cartoon.
Believe.
But
Don't
it's also a
believe it.
cartoon. Like,
It's
it
so
has
weird, yeah.
It
He's
has
like,
no
in
idea what it's trying to do.
In the commentary, he's actively saying, yeah, like anytime we were like about to film something, it was like the studio calling, like, okay, so like how do we insert more toy like moments?
Mm-hmm.
So like, maybe you could say he was trying to do, but it just feels like from its inception, it was supposed to sell toys. At no point would there
Yeah.
be a script where they're like, but I have seen him quoted as saying, oh yeah, like there was a dark version of this, and I've seen elements of the darker Batman Forever, but I just don't think there is.
No.
I don't think there is
I'd
anything
like
for
to-
Batman and Robin.
Yeah, I'd like to think that he's referring to the first draft that the studio obviously rejected.
Yeah,
They're
maybe.
Like, they're like, hey, I just did Batman Forever. I want to go darker because you wouldn't let me. They're like, nope, you're going to go basically Adam West. And that's going to be great for the boomers. That's going to be great for their kids. And they're going to want to buy toys. It'll be a good family outing.
But the crazy thing, Ben, is that then because the studio was all for doing a sequel until this movie bombed at the box office.
Yes.
They were planning to do a sequel that
Mhm.
was going to be dark and gritty and like, and how do you come away from this movie and then be like, okay, we've just made this hyper color neon campy 70s throwback, but
Mhm.
now we're gonna let you make a super dark twist. Like it just
Well, but I mean,
back to
think
Tim
about
Burton era.
the trajectory from like Tim Burton to Schumacher, though, right?
Yeah,
Like,
I think
and-
they were
but
just
they
course
consider that
correcting.
Part of
Yeah.
one universe, right?
Yeah.
Like this is all part of one series, even though the two directors have a completely different style.
I
and
just-
an approach
once
to the
you
characters.
go-
So
I can see going from dark and serious to lightning, and getting sillier and sillier. I just don't see how you come back from that unless you do what they obviously ultimately did, which
Yeah,
was just
I
like
think that's why it
start
never happened.
start fresh.
yeah.
But
someone
I-
would have needed to die in order to be like, all right, we're serious again. We joked around way too much. We didn't actually give Alfred and we didn't the medicine and we didn't call Victor Freeze and there it's on us. We got to go serious again. That's what it's going to be.
I've seen like what they had plans for, which
Ooh.
didn't really seem like. There's multiple things. Like there was a
Mhm.
Scarecrow version. There was like a
Okay.
yeah, Scarecrow. Who was? Do you guys know who was supposed to play Scarecrow?
Nicolas Cage.
No, Coolio.
Oh, see, I
Whoa.
haven't seen
The
Nicolas Cage.
Coolio. So Coolio has a cameo in this movie. Yes,
And-
there was talk of it being Nicolas Cage, but
Right.
then according to Coolio, anyway, his cameo in
Oh.
this movie,
That
he's
guy.
supposed to be who they were going to then bring him back to be the Scarecrow in I think it was the sequel was supposed to be called like Batman Triumphant or some
Yes.
stupid name like
Mhm.
that. And yeah, so Coolio was going to play the Scarecrow, which
But-
I don't know. That's kind of cool.
But there's all of these like things. So it was like, yeah, he would make Batman hallucinate this trial where Courtney
Yeah.
Love as Harley Quinn, but
Oh,
she's the
God.
daughter of Joker, is like putting
Whoa.
Batman on trial for killing her dad, and Jack Nicholson's gonna come back. I'm like, I just feel like no wonder that movie didn't get made. Like,
Jack
thinks
Nicholson
that-
would never agree to that for starters.
and like, who's like, oh yeah, I went to the Batman movie to watch him sit in like the like witness box. Like, what? No.
The courtroom drama.
But
Yeah,
that
like,
just
I don't
goes to
want
show, that goes to show that, like, again, no disrespect to Joel Schumacher, though big disrespect to Joel Schumacher.
Yeah.
The guy I think is a hack. May he rest in peace. But like,
I was like, thank
when,
goodness you said that.
when you know that he started his career as a person who designed window dressing, like literally like window displays
and
at
stuff on the
Macy's.
Wiz.
Yeah, and then worked on The Wiz, and he then makes Car Wash. I think did he? No, maybe he wrote Car Wash.
Okay.
I don't think he directed that. But like the guy, he's a hack. Like, and I guess he got lucky because he made Lost Boys, and people really thought that was really good. And
So wait, am I the only one that likes The Firm? Was it?
I don't-
did he do that?
It's on my list.
Wait, no,
yeah,
maybe
heard
he didn't
good
do The
things about it.
Firm.
no, I don't think it's The Firm that he
Oh,
did.
okay.
Is it like oh no, I'm just gonna have to look it up. I can't remember the name of it.
He did Phone Booth, which is like fine.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And he famously, as anyone who knows me really well knows, he famously ruined the Phantom of the Opera by making that dumpster fire of a film.
It's the what you know him from on his IMDb is Phantom of the Opera. It's the first one listed.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, 8mm, which is apparently like dark, again, sort of
Mhm.
like a dark and gritty attempt at making a David Fincher movie.
The Client.
Um,
That's what I was thinking.
The
of.
Client.
Oh
yes.
yeah. There were a bunch of movies with names like that in the 90s.
I really liked The Client, but maybe if I
Okay.
rewatched it, I wouldn't.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like he's not. He feels like the kind of, how do I say this in a way that doesn't sound like totally dismissive? He feels like he's the kind of director a studio likes because they can push him around,
Mhm.
Bingo.
and he's competent enough that he like knows how to set the camera up, but he's not a visionary like Tim Burton, so he's not going to push back when they say, give them another suit so we can sell more toys. Like that's
Put
the kind of
Ellen McPherson
filmmaker
in
he
it.
feels. Yeah, exactly. That's the kind of filmmaker he feels like to me. Like he doesn't
Mm-hmm.
have a clear vision or direction, and kind of will just do whatever he needs to do to cash his paycheck. Which, like, good for him. Like, make that money.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Yeah, it is a shame that this movie is just especially everyone keeps bringing it up that he was like, no, there was a dark version. I'm like, I don't know, there wasn't.
Yeah.
There was
There's
no dark
no
version of this that was
way.
going to get made.
Again, I think that was first draft, and it was rejected, and then immediately they're like, "Hey, we're gonna fire you if you don't lighten this up." And then he did this. I 100% agree with the studio yes man director kind of thing, where it's like, "Yep, put you know the Batmobile, make it more toy like, make it so it doesn't make sense." And he's got no,
Yeah, there's not two seats in it anymore, even though this
Yeah.
is Batman and Robin.
Yeah, and that his there's no shield too. There's no like roof over it. It's just like make it a convertible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean that's the TV show. Like I
Yeah.
anytime like
Sure.
there's a bunch of things that happen where I'm like, yeah, I understand what they're going for here. The not having two seats just feels like a terrible note.
Yeah, that is
Yeah.
not good. Because
That would have been that much crueler that he's not letting Robin in the car.
He's like, not only can you not come in the car, I control your motorcycle. So
Yeah.
Yeah, that part's real cruel.
But the,
I
the-
remember in the trailers it made it seem like a triumphant moment, and then in the movie I was like, wait, what? So what a shit move.
I like the part in the beginning where they're getting their gadgets and all that kind of stuff. They're going to go on patrol. They're going to fight, whatever. But then you start to realize, oh, he's got to move the Batmobile before Robin's motorcycle can come out from underneath it. So
Yeah,
like,
'cause he's got to
and
stand there like an idiot waiting
Yeah.
for his shit.
and he's he's the kind of guy that's like, no, you're not going to touch my Batmobile, not even to move it. Like, get out of here. So he's got to be like, oh, can I be Robin tonight without you? Can you move the Batmobile for me? And I'm like, this is hilarious.
You're blocking me in.
You said we were partners. I'm like,
See, but that's again, like this is an element that like they introduce this idea of like, are we a family, or do you trust me? Are we partners?
Mhm.
And then they just never like they do like, yes, they call back to it near the end when he's like, you
But
were
it's
right.
Batman saying, no, you got to trust me. It's not Batman being
yeah,
like, I
that's
trust
right.
you. It's him
Yeah.
being like, no. You said about trust, now trust me, because I don't
I
trust
think
you.
he says something near the end because, like, you know, speaking of bad action sequences, the finales are like the worst action
Oh,
sequence.
I hate it. I
There's
remember
just
thinking,
all
like,
these
oh, we
ups
still gotta
and
do
downs,
this.
people falling and then grappling up and then falling again and then grappling up and so on. But at some point, Clooney says something about like, you know, Robin's like, why didn't you come save me when I fell? And he's like, because I knew you'd be okay, or something like
Okay,
that.
sure. Yes, you're
And that's
right.
like the
He did
only
say that.
callback to the whole trusty thing. But yeah,
It's
it's
like,
not
wait,
good.
so you were just gonna let me die? He's like, you don't worry about it.
yeah, you know, I trusted you. Yeah.
so I will say though, in that whole final thing, Clooney does get to deliver one good line, and that is the whole like, taking life is not powerful or something like that. Giving life is. And I'm like, yeah, that's actually well written for that line. And he's doing a good job there and all that kind of stuff. It's just like all of a sudden it's like, take 2 and call me in the morning. I'm like, and
Exactly.
and the cure is in his wrist the entire time. I'm like,
Yeah, exactly.
What the hell?
why are
If
you
the
walking
cure is
around
in his
with it?
wrist, why is he holding Gotham hostage to pay the money to save his wife?
But
Well,
I think
'cause
this is
that's
like
stage
different
one.
stage.
Yeah,
they
they
clearly
say
say
stage
it's
stage
Alfred
one.
is Gregor.
Okay.
Alfred is in the
yeah.
wrist savable one.
Got
His
it.
wife is
yeah,
beyond
exactly.
that.
Exactly.
I
Got it.
would have really loved if they're like, yeah, diamonds are the only thing that can really fuel this research. Being like, it wasn't money, it wasn't whatever, it was diamonds that like allow him to do this thing. And I'm like, okay, that would have made at least a little bit more sense
Yeah.
for why they want the diamonds and why he's got so many. But no, it's just like, no, I want to freeze everything. That's it. I just want
The
to freeze
diamond's
everything.
power is suit. Like,
Yeah.
that's why he has so many.
But
Yeah,
Daniel,
because he even says after like fighting Batman, he's like, "Oh, it depleted," and he's like dumping diamonds in.
Yeah,
so it's like, yeah,
exactly.
that's why he's got a lot of diamonds.
Yeah,
And
Daniel,
then
you-
he has the idea later in a poorly written movie where he's like, "Why don't I just get a really big one to make a laser?" But that's why I'm saying, and I am agreeing with Adam that you don't need him, is that he's not really about anything until the
Yes.
script's like, "Oh wait, yeah, I guess he needs to do this." Because up until that point, before the movie starts, all he cares about is I need diamonds to power my suit to go
So-
rob people for more diamonds.
But I thought that his plan was always to make the big gun.
no.
But he wasn't planning to use it. He was planning to hold Gotham hostage for money.
yeah.
The way it plays out is it's like he's just constantly trying to do things to get money, but the gun thing seems like an in movie development, not like a
Yeah.
thing that
Well,
he was.
because
It
planning
also
to
doesn't make
do.
sense because if you freeze the whole city, how are they then going to pay
Well,
the
he wasn't-
ransom?
Well, he wasn't going to freeze them. He was going to say,
Yeah, it was
"I
like-
will
No,
freeze
he
you, so
was.
you better give me money."
Yeah. But then he does freeze them at the end.
That's because Ivy unplugs his wife,
Yeah,
and
he
so it
gets
turns
angry.
into a revenge plot.
Yes.
So he's
But
where he's like,
hold-
"I don't care
right.
about the money. I'm just going to freeze Gotham."
hold on, like so the first fight where they're doing the ridiculousness and all that kind of stuff, he launches out of his Mr. Freeze mobile with
Yeah.
the
Right.
rocket, and the rocket's supposed to freeze all of Gotham.
Yeah.
So it's just
Oh.
like he
That's what
tried
Batman
it the
says.
yeah, he tried it the first
the
time,
hell?
didn't work. He's like, "Oh, I got to readapt to the laser." I'm like, to the point of like, how are you going to hold this hostage? It's not
I
like you're
just-
going to go like, "Hey, what Metropolis? Like Gotham has no money. I'm going to hold Metropolis. I'm going to do this and then threaten Metropolis with it later." I'm like, because they made a Superman reference. You might as well be like, "Oh
Yeah.
well, Metropolis has money. Let's."
Well, but
I just don't think
to
he was
Nate's
trying to
point, if
freeze
you need
people.
money, sell the fucking diamonds.
Yeah.
He's,
Yes, I agree with
he's stealing diamonds anyways. He has a diamond the size of a head.
Yes, yeah,
Literally,
he
that
just
thing's
used
got to
the-
be worth
just use the diamond.
millions.
I just feel like they thought it would be cool if you saw people freeze. I don't
Yeah,
think he was
yeah,
trying
no.
to freeze people in that first scene. I think that was someone being like, freeze people, it'll look cool. And no
So-
one thought about the implications of that beyond it will look cool.
Now, Daniel, you referenced it earlier, and when I was doing my research, like apparently they did use this as a point of reference, but I don't remember the episode well enough. But like this is apparently taking beats or moments from
Heart
the
of
animated series Heart of Ice episode.
Mhm.
What is the plot there? Like, because he's more of an
It's-
anti-hero in that show, right? Like
No,
that was my
he's-
recollection.
He's just really not funny in it, and it's very like affecting because the whole thing in that Heart of Ice is he literally is just dead to human interactions, and it's
Right.
Batman needing to figure out a way to get to his heart again. But
Gotcha,
like
okay.
in the show, because he doesn't have to share screen time with Bane or Poison Ivy, you really are just sitting there with like, oh shit, this guy was trying to do something, and it's actually Mark Hamill plays the guy before he got cast as Joker, is like, oh no, this isn't gonna make us money. So he kills Victor
Okay.
Freeze.
Mhm.
And so then he's like, and I lost my wife in the process. Now everyone has to suffer. And his plan
Right.
is, I'm just going to freeze everyone. I'm not trying to save anyone. Like, it would be nice, but I'm not trying to, like, save my wife. I'm just here to make people pay for what happened to me.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay. Because yeah, that was my recollection watching it. As I was always like, I feel like they always sort of portrayed him as this sort of like anti-hero, the wife thing. Because even in like the Arkham video games, like when he's a character, I feel like that was a subplot. Was the whole like
Yeah,
they kept referencing the wife and
Well,
I
sort of
could be wrong,
tragic.
but I think
Yeah.
the wife thing is an invention of the animated series. Like they
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
added that, and it's just such a good thing
Mhm.
because I do think that if the animated series hadn't have happened, you could have had Mr. Freeze be the Bane part, and no one would have raised an eyebrow because he
That's
just
true.
was a
Yeah.
guy with a gun. Like you wouldn't think that. Oh no, you can't do that. He's got his wife. He's got. You would have just been like, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Poison Ivy uses Mr. Freeze as her heavy, but because the show puts that thing in, and everyone has such a strong connection to the idea that he's trying to save his wife, and I think in some iterations, it's like, is that even his wife? Like, or is that just someone he has a crush on? Like
Mhm.
you are like they do a lot of stuff with it that's interesting.
Right.
But as we've already stated, this movie just wanted Arnold Schwarzenegger to make jokes at every single possible turn.
It does kind of like bring up this interesting question though of like, did the existence of the animated series actually make it harder to make Batman movies? Because the show was, despite being like a show written for children, like it was on the Fox Kids hour or whatever it was, but like it famously like very well written, very deep, like
Mhm.
won all these awards, is still very highly regarded. But I wonder if like if that show didn't exist, do we get a different Batman Forever and Batman and Robin? Because
Ye-
like they're not trying to, you know, up
Right.
the level to that. It's just it's something interesting to consider because I guess it comes out after Returns, and then it
Yes.
feels
Yeah.
like
Right.
Forever
As
and
part
Robin.
of that universe, sort of.
Yeah,
But,
exactly.
have you guys seen the episode where they actively make fun of Joel Schumacher?
No,
There's
I
a-
don't think so.
There's an episode where kids are telling stories about meeting
Oh
Batman.
yes.
And the kid named Joel, it's not nice, but they make him a bit effeminate as well.
Right.
It tells this lame story about Batman. They're like, okay, Joel, whatever. And they like kind of like
Oh, wow.
push him and
Yikes.
get out of there. And you're like,
Rough.
okay, I guess we know their feelings on Joel Schumacher's Batman.
Yeah.
Right.
Because
Wow.
I mean, here's one of the biggest things to me, and Daniel, I think you can definitely speak to this, but like, wasn't it the Dark Knight, like the comic book adaptation, that really started to turn the idea of Batman into a darker, serious kind of thing versus everything beforehand, comics, TV show, and all that kind of stuff was always like, yeah, he's the world's greatest detective, and he's kind of goofy, and this is what's going on, and all that kind of stuff. But to me, like, when did
He
that
didn't start
graphic
off
novel come
goofy,
up?
but he became goofy, yeah. But he didn't start off as goofy.
I see.
And
I see.
I think more than solidifying how people think they want Batman, it was more just, yeah, we'd come off of the 60s thing, and then in
Mhm.
86 you get The Dark Knight Returns, and people are like, oh shit, yeah, serious Batman again. But I would say, yeah, he didn't start off, he pretty much started like the Cape Crusader show.
Yeah, like a
Oh, I see.
pulpy.
Yeah,
it
he's
was very
not-
like very sort of like noiry.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it was.
He was Zorro, basically.
Yeah.
He was like
That's
Zorro
who he's
meets
based off.
pulp noir sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So,
Okay.
yeah, I think
But-
it was more just, hey, okay, good, they're taking him seriously in the comics, and then
Mhm.
3 years later you get 89 Batman. So
Mhm.
it's like, okay, I guess
Well-
they're gonna, which obviously we can watch now and be like, it's not that serious, but
Right.
definitely more serious than
Than this movie.
Adam West and,
Mhm.
Yeah,
and this movie.
and Adam West for sure. Yeah, I gather like the producer, one of the producers of that, who's like the producer of every Batman movie, basically
That's
now.
a great story, by the way. He was
That
like,
is a great story.
Michael
He was like-
Uslan.
yeah, he's like, I want to buy this, and everyone's like, who cares? Like, it's
Yep.
Batman. No one gives a shit about this, and I can't. It was like he bought it for like maybe not $1,000, but like close to like
He has like 10 grand or something. Like
It was like a
it's
meaningless
such a
number.
Yeah.
Mhm.
overall for what it has become, and he's just like, and because no one was taking him seriously, yeah, his name has to be on everything as a
Yep.
producer.
But
So
he
he'll always
like
make money.
hated the Adam West Batman. That was
Right.
sort of his thing, is like, you know, even when it was happening, he hated it as a kid because it was like he was already reading the comics and felt like it just kind of shit all over this thing that he loved,
Mhm.
and like held that grudge forever. And then it just happened, like you said, like, you know, in the 80s, you have this sort of shift in the Batman comics, and that's kind of his time to like
Mhm.
prove that you could do it the other way and make it
Mhm.
more serious and
Mm.
maybe just more adult, I guess, something that adults might actually go to and
Mhm.
enjoy. It's not just for kids.
Mhm. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Is there any other comments? We haven't said it out loud, but there's obviously the bat credit card, don't leave home without it thing.
Yep.
which is- I think an
Okay.
example
Which-
of him not knowing how to sell these jokes. Like, just
yeah.
the way he throws it away, I'm like, come on, it's right there for you.
The fact that that wasn't product placement to me was actually baffling. Like now that I'm seeing it with Adam's background and all that, I'm like, that was not a MasterCard thing. That was not. It was just a gag that they put in there. I'm like,
Mhm.
what the?
It's
what's
kind of
going
making
on?
fun of those ads, I think.
Yes.
Yeah,
Of
oh,
like that's how that
absolutely.
would be presented in like an Amex ad, you know.
Yeah. But like I would think like someone at the studio might be like, hey, MasterCard, do you want your name all over
yeah,
this?
that's the thing.
You know?
Like, I think you're right, Nate. It's making fun of those kind of things, but in a movie that literally exists only to sell toys. Like,
It's
it's
actually very Mike Myers. It's like
Yes.
it's a
Mhm.
gag almost right out of
Yeah,
It is an Austin Powers gag. Except
an
for
Austin Powers gag, and before
it's
that too, I
buried
think he-
under a bunch of non-Austin Powers.
yeah, the Wayne's World
Right.
gag with the Pepsi
Yeah.
and the Doritos and everything.
Mhm.
Yeah.
exactly.
But again, it's taking place in a movie that doesn't earn the right to be able to poke fun at product placement because
No kidding.
the movie, like, yeah, it's such a weird moment that I remembered it from when I was a kid. Like, I had
Mhm.
vivid memories of like a couple things from this movie, and that was one of them. And like
Mhm.
when it happened, I chuckled, but I was also just like, what is going on? Although I do also like the idea that Batman and Robin show up to events as Batman and Robin.
Right,
Like,
as celebs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it's
I know.
ridiculous.
With special guests, and
Yeah.
here's the invitation. I'm like, what's happening? I like to shout out that bulldog that got frozen mid pee because I for some reason remembered it being like, oh, when he was defrosted, he just kept peeing, and then I'm like,
Yeah.
he didn't care about anything. And I'm like, oh no, they just like realized that they're just gonna throw a little bit of a fight, like just snow on him and just get him to shake it off and just run away. I'm like, I did remember that very differently as a kid.
I will say I thought the freezing stuff looked pretty good overall. Like that
Yeah.
part, the like Frozen Gotham. I was thinking about Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, which I have not
Mm.
seen. And I'm like, but like, what are the odds that this actually looks better than that movie? Has anyone seen it?
I have
have.
seen it. I saw it in theaters. I would say on par. Like, it doesn't
Mm.
suffer from the CGI goopiness that a lot of
Okay.
modern movies suffer from, but you know, I to this film's credit, like the CGI, what little CGI, 97
Yeah.
CGI is
Mm.
actually half decent. Like,
Yeah.
even the surfing,
Very.
I'm glad you're admitting the surfing's cool.
yeah, like
It's
it looks
well done.
pretty good. Like, you
Yeah.
can tell they're a little bit rubbery, but like, yeah, it's not terrible. So,
Yeah, they just only use it here and there, and like
Mhm.
mostly rely on practical. And like, I think to that extent, it kind of that part holds up. Like the production design, other than like a few things, like the giant diamonds.
Mhm.
Yeah.
the neon looks great. I mean, I will say, I
Neon,
think
like
think
that, the black light.
the Mr. Freeze suit looks awesome.
Yeah,
I don't really know why Poison Ivy's lair was designed by Baz Luhrmann. Like, it looks like something out of Moulin Rouge, but like, I'm fine with
I don't
it.
also know why her plant ate her. Like,
Yeah.
she was
I
like,
know.
That was
that should have been a thing where the plant like pushes her out. Like, oh yeah, not you.
Yeah, no. But yeah, production design wise, that's probably the one thing this movie has going for it, I would
Mhm.
say. But
I sell those toys.
gotta
Yeah.
sell those toys.
And-
Also, rubber lips. I have to say.
Yes.
We're still-
the rubber lip
I
thing was
remember
good.
when I was in the theater, the kid behind me started crying, and I was just like, rubber
'Cause it-
lips. Also, kiss him now. He took off one of the rubber lips. You can get him now.
Kiss him again.
Yeah,
Yeah,
go get
do
him.
it. I to the windsurfing thing or in the beginning, I'm like, I know they're definitely trying to sell toys now because at that point I'm like, the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie, which did the windsurfing opening sequence way better than this,
Mm.
was in 1999, and I'm like, all right, they're just ripping off ideas from different movies and just throwing it into this.
Yeah.
I-
What? You said 1999. That's
1995,
after this.
95.
Okay, yeah.
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm just like, it definitely feels like that, but without the idea of winning a contest by landing on a target.
Yeah,
Like,
and
the
in
the other
in
thing-
that same scene, Mr. Freeze has wings.
yes,
yeah.
Yeah.
Forgot about
Just
those
like,
wings.
What?
Completely forgot about those wings.
Famously, the freeze wings.
Yeah,
yeah,
freeze wings.
we all know the freeze wings.
No,
I mean, it sucks because there's like that. There is that cool scene where he like slows himself down with his freeze gun.
yeah, that was
which
cool.
is way cooler. Anyway,
Yes.
No, I will say though, the only other thing that was running through my head watching this is that it's crazy to think that two franchises were almost killed off by plots involving ice and diamonds because as a James Bond fan,
Yes.
Die
Yeah.
Another Day also heavily features ice
Diamond
and
Face.
diamonds, and it
Yes.
damn
Diamond
well
Face.
killed the. So if you're making a franchise movie, avoid combining ice and diamonds unless you want to possibly kill it off forever.
right.
So-
Only one at a time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one at a time.
And Batman keeps calling diamonds ice, which I was like, is that? I thought only like hip hop said that, but okay.
Well,
I
he
guess-
was hanging out with Coolio, so maybe that's why.
Fair enough. Coolio. And, one thing I did notice about this movie, more than one black woman, and in general, the city seemed to be populated by black people, and I was like,
True.
all right,
Mhm.
good for you, Joel. Good for you.
Diversity.
Yeah. But some of the scientists I think were in Batman Forever as different characters.
Mhm.
Like the one scientist was like,
Mhm.
"What a screwball," and I'm like, "What's?" I thought you worked with Riddler. What's going on here?
I just couldn't get over the one scientist is Judge Ping from Arrested Development, and I just kept hearing Lucille Bluth
Oh.
go, we've got Ping! And and it just completely threw me out of the movie because then I was like, oh, now I just want to watch Arrested Development again.
I think he's Joel Schumacher's. Well, Joel Schumacher's dead, but I think that was like there's 2 or 3 people in the movie that are just his friends that he put
Right,
in both
yeah, yeah,
Batman
yeah.
movies.
That would make sense.
Well, guys, I think we've come to the point where everyone has been waiting for us to rate this movie out of 10. Nate, you can go first.
Oh, thanks. Wow. It's really hard, honestly, because for me, it's got some high highs and some low lows. Like, I think this movie actually is hilarious. And
It did start off pretty strong.
yeah.
The best comedy of '97.
it's
No. He said the best comedy of the 90s, Daniel.
Oh, sorry.
The entire decade.
I undersold what you said. I'm sorry.
yeah. No, I mean, I like it is. I find it hilarious and very entertaining. I don't find it boring. I think that it's messy, and I definitely think like the finale kind of sucks. But I think there's a lot of funny stuff in this, and it's probably more entertaining than most people remember it, right? But that said, it's definitely there's a lot of weaknesses too. So, like on Letterboxd, I reserve my 2.5 rating for So Bad It's Good.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
This kind of falls in that territory. But I think on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd probably give it like a 6.
Oh wow.
Wow.
I know that's high for
No, I'm
most
just saying
people.
because that should be a 3-star.
Yeah, I know, but I think that it is. I think it's fun enough to actually sit down and watch sometime. Like, it's not a must see.
I can't
but
disagree with you. I've watched it so many times.
me too. Well, that's the thing, right? So like, I wouldn't give it below a 5 for that reason, right? Where it's like, I actually will probably rewatch this at some point in the next 5 years. So
All
there
right.
you go.
There you go. Adam, how about you?
Similar to Nate, I used 2.5, which I guess would be a 5 on a 10-point scale, as the
Mhm.
sort of like So Bad It's Good. That's, I reserve movies like Spice World or Burlesque for that range where it's like, I know this movie's not a good movie, but it's very entertaining in how bad it is.
Mhm.
And in a weird way, like, I think this movie doesn't quite reach that level because it's too well made in a weird way, or like
Mhm.
I think you put it really well when you said it has high highs and low lows, Nate. It's a movie that had so much potential and just feels like it was made by committee.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
more than anything, I just found it like kind of dull and boring. Like it's
Mhm.
not that it's bad, it's just boring, which is not something you should be saying about a superhero movie. But I think Uma Thurman's performance elevates it enough for me that I'm in the like 5-star, 6-star range. I
Okay.
don't know that I would watch this again outside of like maybe getting drunk and watching it with you, Nate.
Do it.
But
I like
but
that
at the
for
same
both of us.
I'll set a
time,
date right now.
at the same time, I will say I would rather rewatch this than like Batman v Superman or any of the
Yeah.
like any of those movies, because like I'm not for this whole self-seriousness of the comic book movie genre anymore. Like I do kind of like that this acknowledges that it's a silly superhero movie, and that's okay. So I would like to see maybe us move closer back to this realm, but just like made by like a better director or a better writer, maybe.
I feel like James Gunn will have you covered.
Yeah,
soon
maybe
with the-
he's
with the new
like
DC
maybe
stuff.
that's the tone that I'm waiting for. I don't know. I didn't love Suicide Squad, but I didn't hate it. But like Guardians of the Galaxy is kind of
Yeah.
the like perfect summation of that style. So if he can do that with Batman, then I'm all for it.
Ben, how about you?
There is one thing I forgot to say. I'm gonna say it real quick. I thought that for some reason, Dr. Jason Woodrow, played by John Glover, was Kevin Conroy for some reason.
Oh.
And I'm like,
I mean,
that-
he is.
Kind of looks like him.
He does. And I was like, that would have been such a bummer to watch someone else do your thing. And oh, you're such an iconic Batman. I'm like, okay, no, it's not. It's because I
he is-
rewatched that.
He's in
so many
Shazam
times.
though, so
He
he did
is.
come back to. I mean, I think he's done a couple of things in DC, but he's the. I never remember. Is it Dr. Savannah or Dr. Savannah? He's the bad guy's dad.
Yeah.
Like the really
Oh.
mean dad at the
Oh.
beginning of Shazam that crashes the car.
Yeah, I legit thought he was playing that Dr. Woodrow Woodrow character.
And-
But yeah,
In the comics, he is a bad guy named the Floronic Man. So he.
Yeah, I looked
him
that
being
up because I
pushed
was
in
like,
would have been nice if they brought him back at some point.
yeah.
but they didn't.
But yeah, so
giving-
yeah, your rating.
I'm giving this a 4.
Okay.
I
That's
would
fair.
definitely. This is one of those movies that enters the realm of like, oh, we're getting just super ripped and making fun of this the entire time. I'm in. But if I have to like sit through this again and be like, I got to be serious, I got to take notes, I got to do all. I'm like, nope, I'm I'm out. It's not as good as Madam Web for that, because that is so bad that it's
you
good.
keep giving Madam Web love. I can't
I
stand for it.
love
I
Madam
cannot
Web.
stand for the.
It's so
it is
good.
not a good movie. It is
It's
made
so
almost
good.
more insidiously than this. It is not good. It is
It's-
not worth praise.
I disagree with you so much. I love how
I didn't
bad
say
that movie
anything
is.
that could be like. It is clear from what everyone said that it was made in bad faith.
Yeah, but okay,
There's nothing to disagree with.
to
You can
me,
enjoy it,
I
but it is
enjoy
not
the
made
hell out of it.
to entertain people. It
That's
was
so
made
funny.
as a thing that they could do to sit on rights of something they shouldn't have.
Yes, but that's the whole "it's so bad it's good" thing to me. Is Madam
fair.
Web? That is my example movie for.
Sounds
It's
like
So
we need a
Bad It's
double
Good.
feature.
Yes.
Anyway, yeah, I'm gonna give this a 4.5, like a real strong 4.5 out of 10, not out of 5. Because I do lose interest by the end. I'm not saying it's an objectively boring movie. It was not for me, and I think a lot of people for this run of 4 movies make the complaint that sometimes Batman isn't as interesting as the villains, but this feels like the first movie of the 4 that's not even trying to make Batman interesting.
Yeah.
I agree.
I think he gets lost in the mix in the other 3. I still find things I like, but this one is just like, we don't even care about this. This is not even an interest to us to make him interesting. So it hurts a little bit more than just a 5 out of 10.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right. Adam, Nate, I didn't say this ahead of time. This will be coming out probably late September.
Okay, great.
So anything you want to promote other than your amazing podcast, or you can promote your amazing podcast?
Yeah, I mean, I think if this is coming out late September, we will be back with our
yeah.
6th. I think it's our 6th season that we're heading into. We take long breaks because
It's a lot of effort to make that show.
Our show is a lot of work. But please listen to it. We had some great guests last season. We have some great guests coming up this season. Last season we got to speak with 2 Simpson writers and producers, including the legendary Bill Oakley. So if you
Great
haven't
episode.
gone back, or if you aren't listening to our show yet, that's a great place to start. Bill Oakley talking about Pulp Fiction with us.
Nice.
And we've got some awesome guests and episodes lined up for this season, including, because we're in the fall season, you'll get our annual Treehouse of Horror episode where we're going to be talking about a very, very fun Halloween movie, I think.
Yeah, I think we can say it. We got So we're kind of doing 2 Halloweeny movies this year. We're doing Twilight Zone the movie, which is a deeply cursed production. If you're not familiar with that, you can read up on that. But we'll be talking about that. We just recorded that one, and then we also are going to be doing Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Oh, nice.
I haven't seen that yet, so that'll be a good
reason.
Daniel. Funnily that I've watched Twilight Zone the movie, but yeah, I will get the Bram Stoker's Dracula so I can listen to your episode.
I hadn't seen it either, and let me tell you, sir, you will not be disappointed.
Yeah,
it is similar to this in that it is like a visually really inventive, interesting movie. But not so actually, and kind of similar to this.
And similarly,
the weakest part is the protagonist actors.
Okay.
But beyond that, it's a much better movie on a lot of other levels. So it's very worth checking.
It does have Commissioner Gordon as Dracula in Gary Oldman.
That's true.
So
that's true. There you
One
go.
of Gary Oldman's best performances, in my opinion. So
there you go.
Yeah. Well, and where can everyone? I mean, we said the name of your podcast, but maybe say it again just to remind people.
Yeah, you can find it on all of your favorite podcasting services at Springfield Googleplex, which is not easy to spell. So social media, that's not our social media handle. Our social media handles are Simpsons Film Pod, and we're on, what was formerly known as Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all of those things. Social media is not our strong suit. We spend too much time editing the show that then when we have to do social media, we're like, oh crap.
You'll get some fun like video clips, and also you'll get some scene comparisons of The Simpsons and movies. So we try to put that content out there in the world.
Yeah, I would say our show is one where if you aren't checking out the show notes to go along with every episode, you absolutely should at our website, again, springfieldgoogleplex.com or simpsonfilmpod.com, because Nate does an incredible job of finding the scene references, like the visual references, and doing side-by-side comparisons of The Simpsons and then the movie itself. And he does an incredible amount of work to do that, and it looks awesome. And so more people should check that out if they aren't already.
Yeah, I mean, I wholeheartedly agree. Everyone should be listening to your podcast and, as you said, following along and going to the site and getting the full experience of the show, because, as I said, it's a lot of effort put into it, and it's well worth people's time.
And Nate's almost done. He's also been building our Simpsons movie reference database, and he's almost finished season 13,
which is our cutoff.
Which is our cutoff point. So we're very close to having like the database being technically completed. And again,
which
the amount of
super
work.
Dorky, but it is super dorky. But the cool thing about it is, I will soon be able to tell you what is the movie that is most referenced in the sort of golden age of The Simpsons. And lots of other cool questions like that. What's the most referenced director? All sorts of like anything you ever want to know about that kind of stuff, we're going to be able to answer, and hopefully can be, again, putting out some content about that soon.
Perfect. And thank you very much for doing this. I know that it felt like a daunting task to watch this, but I feel like we had a great conversation about it.
It was my pleasure.
Okay, good.
No,
good.
I enjoyed the conversation more than I enjoyed watching the movie, but I'm glad. I will say that watching the movie was not nearly as painful as I thought it was going to be.
Good stuff.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us.
Oh yeah, this is truly a pleasure. Maybe we will have to do Spice World. I don't know.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much for listening, everybody. We also have a website. It's tdferything.com/spoiledrotten, where you can listen to all of our episodes. Or if you love to do it the podcast platform way, we're on most podcast platforms. So rate, review, subscribe, share with your friends, do all that great stuff. And our Instagram, Threads, and Twitter handle is @TDFSpoiled. So you can get in touch with us that way, or email spoiledpodcast@gmail.com. Thank you very much for listening, and goodbye.
Cheers.
This has been a TDF Everything production, brah.